And action. Hey everyone, just had a question about shift work. More importantly, midnights, and what to do about how to keep sane during the 2 months of midnights. If this is the first time you're finding me though, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. Also, heads up, most of you work in an industry where other people are with you during that shift. If you're the unlucky one who has to work midnights, then share the video. You might find other people have the same issues. So, and when you all are in sync and all working and purring, job gets done fast and more exact without any injuries. So, when I gave a talk at the College of DuPage for first responders, one of the questions out of the back was, I'm going to be doing midnights now. Is there anything I can do, or am I screwed? And I know the guy, the police officer, was joking when he said that, but I think there was some sincerity in his and some help that I heard in his voice. And this is what I'm going to try to put this together for. So whether you do the midnight shift on the police force, or you do 24 on, 48 off as a firefighter, or you work third shift all the time, or you just if you're traveling across timelines, I think this will help you reset your rhythm. Because if you don't, like a lot of my firefighters and police officers, the sleep will catch up with you sooner or later. You might be able to power through a bad night or cutting your time of sleep down with excessive amounts of caffeine or alcohol that puts you to sleep, but that's going to damage you in the long run. That's not supposed to be how humans live. Humans are based on a clock, and the clock is the sun. The sun comes up in the morning and sets at night. And honestly, that's the way you're supposed to wake up in the morning and go to sleep and finish at night, maybe a couple more hours, but that's it. Somebody has to keep a wide eye or an ear open for predators, and that's it. So you do all your work in the morning because there are other predators that are trying to eat us, and we have to till the fields and all that stuff. So I think we're not nocturnal animals. Now, there are some people that are night owls, and those night owls, I think, are inherently built into society or into the species because they have to be the ones at night that have to keep their ears and eyes open to protect the group from predation. So now we don't have to worry about that anymore, but I think in the genetic code, some of us still like a preference. And I think with all the energy and hormones of teenage years, that's usually when you'll feel that night owl thing, and then you get used to it. But again, humans aren't supposed to be that way, and eventually 40s, 50s, and 60s, you will find a time when you're not going to be a night owl anymore. So in the meantime, for you guys that are suffering, this is what I would do. So I've put together a chart up top for the scale of what a normal person does during the day and night. I put the numbers, and I essentially put down Monday, the days of the week, the 2 days of the weekend. Then I included when a person would wake up with the first meal. I skipped the middle meal, lunch, and when a person would get home from work and the third meal. I put the times, even on weekends, and then I put the hours of sleep. So that's the essential. Those are the numbers, and you guys can pause this and look at my numbers. But obviously, if you keep a normal circadian rhythm, a good one, your gut, because of the meals and timing, and your eyes, because of the sunlight, will appreciate it. And when your two biological clocks are in sync, you are bulletproof to disease. As long as you stay away, you exercise, watch your weight, stay away from eating crappy food, and meditate, I think you'll be bulletproof to disease. The problem is for our midnighters. So now we all go through breaking this paradigm. So I put essentially the day shift hours. Now I wake up at 4:30 to 5 every morning, but for the sake of midnight shift ending at 8 and the 8 o'clock shift starting in the morning, I just said average wake up for a person in the morning would be 6 a.m. in order to get to work at 8 a.m. All right. And an average time that person on that day shift would get home from an 8 o'clock shift would be about 5 or 6 p.m. assuming that they go to work at 8, they are finished by 4-ish. It takes 2 hours to get home or whatever you have to do. Get home and eat your third meal by 5 or 6 p.m. So that's solid. That's 5 days a week. Now on Friday, you might have a little bit of variability as far as when you get home. You might stop at somebody's house, you might stop at a restaurant. So it's variable. I should have put a V right here. Definitely Saturday and Sunday, most people will sleep in a little bit. I talked to a small percentage of people like myself, and even on Saturday and Sunday, when you're rock solid with your schedule, you still keep the 6 a.m. wake. That's why I put 6 a.m. over here with a question mark. But for some folks, Saturdays it's sleep-in time. So you get up instead of 6 on Saturday and Sunday, get up at 10. So that's a plus 4 hours. So you add 4 hours to your usual wake time and your usual breakfast. I think that's fair on Saturday and Sunday. And getting home, or in this case, eating your third meal, if you usually wake up in the morning, I'd say most of us will push it back a little bit because we woke up a little bit late. We'll push our dinner to about 4 to 6 p.m. And that's variable, so I put a V. 4 to 6 p.m. would be about the time you shoot for dinner time versus a hard 5 to 6 p.m. So that's not so much different. It's about minus 1 to 2 hours from your normal time, assuming that you wake up late and you sleep in and you eat your first meal later. And then sleep, usually on the weekday, would be 10 p.m. On Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday plus minus, it'll be 12 midnight or 1 p.m. because most of us like to stay up late. Assuming we're not going to do that all week, I think we can tolerate that. Now, I put a box around Sunday because most people would not want to stay up too late on Sunday, assuming that Monday they're going to be waking up again, right? So maybe 3, more like 2 nights a week, it'll be a late night sleep. And that's additional 3 hours from your usual time of sleep. So you can see a pattern here. On weekends, we wake up 4 hours later, and we go to sleep 3 hours later. So we push ahead our time clock. Just because we don't have to wake up so early, I guess, or there's other things that are cooler to do. So if you translate that to the midnight shift guys, that's the same concept, right? Midnight shift, if you have to get to work at midnight, we'll try to pick one same time every night that you wake up, which would be 2 hours before. I remember I said if you get to work at 8, you wake up at 6. Get to work at the 8 o'clock shift in the morning, you wake up at 6 to get all ready and eat breakfast and say hello to everybody. Well, if you're going to get to your midnight shift at midnight, you honestly should wake up at 10 p.m. That's what I would do. 10 p.m. every night, Monday to Friday. 10 p.m. wake up with your first meal. I'm not calling it breakfast, I'm calling it your first meal because that's confusing when you're at midnight. 10 p.m., wake up, first meal of the day. And make it kind of light, mostly protein to wake you up. Healthy, not so big. And then on the weekends, you might want to wake up a little earlier. Now, remember, here I said wake up later. You're reversed here, so I would wake up a little bit earlier, like minus 4 hours. So if you usually wake up at 10 p.m. to get to work at midnight, if you're not working, you might want to wake up at 6 p.m. Why? Because I pick 6 p.m. because there's dinner. And sometimes if you eat dinner, well, if you're going to wake up and pick a time, it's nice to socialize. And if you have the opportunity because it's the weekend, I would pick 6 p.m. as an earlier wake up because you can see a lot of people, you can see what happens, you can attend parties or get ready and just catch up. So I would move it to 6 p.m. So waking up a little bit earlier, 6 p.m. That's minus 4 hours from usual. And maybe considering going to sleep 3 hours minus usual. So if usually, say you get home from work, so your midnight shift ends at 8. You get home, midnight shift ends at 8 a.m. You get home about 9 or 10. So you're home for your third meal. You midnight guys are home for your third meal by about 10 a.m. And hopefully you've met up with somebody who said hello to everybody that's waking up. And you get to sleep at 2 p.m. So if you get home at 10 a.m., You share your third meal, that would be their first meal. And then you kind of do your bills, you catch up with stuff, do some errands, but you plan on getting to bed at 2 p.m. to prepare for your next midnight shift. Does that make sense? Get up at 10 p.m. to go to work at midnight. Get home at about 10 a.m., considering traffic. Then you fall asleep at 2 p.m. All right, that's the midnight shift. That's my suggestion. And you do that for Monday to Friday solid. But on Friday night, because it's variable, if you know you're not going to work, I would try to go to sleep at about 11 to 12 noon instead of 2 p.m. So you're going to sleep earlier. Remember? I said on weekends, you might want to get up a little earlier, -4 hours. On weekends, you might want to sleep a little earlier, 11 or 12 noon. Why 11 or 12 noon? Well, again, it matches up. You've got +4 hours and +3 hours on the normal shift. I would try to do -4 hours and -3 hours on the midnight shift. As long as you just move the direction, move the box a little bit. Don't kind of vary it all the time. Move the box. Here we're moving the box forward, 3 hours, 4 hours. Here we're moving the box backwards, 3 hours, 4 hours. The body will respond. You'll be able to make it up. So, and the reason I pick 11 or 12 noon as the time that you go to sleep is you might have had brunch with whoever's in the house. You've done some morning stuff. You've taken care of cutting the grass or your chores, running to the store. And then you can usually get to bed by 11 or 12 noon. And that's variable. I wouldn't, that's for Saturday, that's for Friday, Saturday. On Sunday, I would probably consider resetting back to the usual 2 p.m. so you can get ready for your next shift. If you go to bed at noon, 12 noon, and then you're supposed to work at 10, that's a lot of sleeping. So that's too much sleeping. So I'd probably just reset again because you're preparing for Monday shift. So the other thing is when you have your third meal, usually, as I mentioned, you get home by about 10 a.m. after finishing your midnight shift. You eat your third meal, but on the weekends, you might want to consider eating your third meal at 8 a.m. Again, it's a little bit earlier. So if you eat a little earlier, assuming you take a little bit of a nap between when you wake up at 6, when you eat and you have your first meal, and when you eat your third meal by 8, you might want to take a nap just to give the brain what it needs. Again, assuming you share a breakfast, you share, let's just make it, you share a dinner, you share breakfast, and you share a brunch. I think that's nice. If you pick those times, you can offset your schedule on Saturday and Sunday, maybe Friday night, and then be more in social gatherings, so your kids or your spouses won't be totally watching you sleep all the time for the 2 months you're on. But you don't knock your circadian rhythm too much out of whack. Most of us, if we do the regular thing, this regular first shift, most of us, if you screw up the 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we can usually be okay on Monday. So 2 days a week is not that much to knock off our circadian rhythm. I present to you that I think the same thing is with midnights, but you have to be rock solid with your Monday to Friday. If you can establish rock solid, these are just suggestions. Maybe you can comment, you have your own ways that you deal with it, that'd be great. These are just suggestions to establish rock solid circadian rhythm, and then you can kind of let go a little bit, but it has to be, I think it has to be scientific. It has to be regulated, but that's what I would do for Saturday and Sunday. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a framework. Hopefully it even showed up on this camera with the light behind me, but a little bit of a framework of what I do. Now, if you're just beginning the midnight shift, there's a couple of, I'll put some links, but there's a couple of things you can do. If you're trying to get this sleep at 2 p.m. and it's super bright out, you need something to cover the eyes. You also can't just like be out cleaning the pool and then decide you're going to go to sleep. You gotta wear the shades. If you're out during the day, during 11, 12, and 1, right before 2, you should really shade your eyes. Sunglasses, blue blockers, they work great. Not exposing yourself to screens, not exposing yourself to lights, video lights, and also turning on the music. I also would not exercise right before you're trying to get to sleep at 2 p.m. I know some of you try to exercise when you have free time, but exercise it makes you feel relaxed, but it also, to feel relaxed or an endorphin high and enkephalin high, that relaxed state, you got to turn on the stress response of exercise. So that kind of equalizes itself out, but then you have this muscle fluid shifting that makes me pee in about 3 hours. I don't think that's not good to be sleeping and then have to wake up because your muscles start to deflate again. So that's just me, but I really think that that stimulated effect of exercise will not allow you the brain to rest. So I wouldn't exercise it right before sleeping. I would try to eat more of and that would be at the 10 a.m. mark. I tried more of a carbohydrate dominant meal because carbohydrates tend to make an insulin response occur, more of an insulin response occur, and insulin makes you sleepy soon after that meal. During the day, with your first meal of the day at 10 p.m., and maybe a lunchtime. I didn't put any lunchtime here. It's up to you guys. But during lunchtime, I'd try to make it protein dominant. Protein dominant meals usually won't give you such an insulin spike, so it won't make you so lethargic afterward. Also during the day, you might want to stimulate with being in under bright light. So that's just the opposite of night. Stimulate with being under bright lights, showing blue. I have a light that I showed, a light box, and I had an unboxing of it. I'll put a link down below too. Loud music, engagement, avoiding boring situations, all important. And again, at the opposite end of the day, covering up if you have to do work outside right before sleep, covering up at sleep time, darkening the room that you're going to be sleeping in, cooling down the house or the room where you're going to be sleeping in, and sometimes plugging the ears. So if you can do all that stuff, asking everybody to be quiet, nothing like having your master room on top of a garage and somebody comes in and out of the garage and they're just having a good time, or turn on the lawnmower and you're trying to sleep. Even ear plugs won't block that out. So everybody else has to be on the same page as you. Sometimes at 2 p.m., if you're ready to reset the circadian rhythm, I do melatonin or 5-HTP. Both of those things help with initiating a little bit of the brain calming. 5-HTP is a building block for serotonin. Melatonin just stimulates what's supposed to be coming from your pineal gland anyway. And usually when you're looking at light, like I'm looking at this video light, my melatonin is turning off because my brain is thinking it's daytime. So it's 7:43. It's probably going to be hard for me to sleep tonight, but I'm doing this for you guys. But I'll just take melatonin and something else. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a framework on what to do. Even if you're just jet lagged, I'd still say try to do this and reset your rhythm, and it will work. Now, you guys that travel, if you're in a different time zone, you might want to still pretend to keep the U.S. time zone in places where you are, say in Asia, if you're a flight attendant that goes to China all the time, or in Saudi Arabia. If you are there, it's going to be unusual and you're going to be off your social cues and miss some meetings, but if you can pretend that you're still on American time, I think it'd be a lot easier to switch when you come back to the U.S. So hopefully you like this. Share it with everybody you can. Subscribe down below, and I'll give you, if you want any videos, put them down below, because I usually do this for all my patients, and I'll see you in the clinic.